What's up, y'all? Robert A1 Locksmith, and we are going hog hunting. Only difference is we're not going for feral pigs today, probably this weekend. We're gonna take a look at the brand new 2025 Browning HAWG 49 Deluxe. Stay to the end, get all the details, ask questions in the comment section. Let's go. So it's important that we find all of the necessary details to get you educated to see if maybe this is the right safe for you, because that's what we do here, right? So around these parts, we play a little game called What You See in Front of You. My jam. So I like to start with the dimensions, because that's a simple one. We need to go figure out, does this fit in your space? So with a little help from CGI, I think that's the right term for this. Let's go ahead and tell you that it is 58 inches tall. This guy stands in at 42 inches wide, and it is 24 inches deep. Now, I like to take a moment, talk about depth, because the depth only includes the box itself from front to back. So what it's not talking about when they tell you 24 inches is they're not talking about your external hinges that you have here. They're not talking about your lock, nor your handle, nor the plug in the back. I'll get to it, I promise. So keep that in mind. So when I tell you it's 24, or they tell you it's 24, let's go ahead and add about 3.5 inches. We'll call it 27.5 inches deep. That way when we're measuring our space, we've thought about everything, okay? So what you see in front of you, brand new for this year again, the HAWG is now, the Deluxe, HAWG 49 Deluxe, is now presented in this finish color. They're calling this the metal clear coat. So I think in the B-roll you'll see it's a really neat color. With that, they've added on their laser cut steel where they do their custom logoing in the steel plates, right here. And they slap them on the corners. That's getting pretty popular in the Browning line, kind of from top to bottom. They've got several safes with that now, so they thought, hey, that's catching on. Let's go ahead and add it to another line. So here they do their beautiful buck mark and Browning logo, and of course at the bottom, that sweet, sweet HAWG design. So you get that with it as well. Also new is gonna be the cast iron wheel. Used to come with just a 3-spoke handle, so they do the wheel kind of that same color as the steel plates, kind of give that look. It comes with a secure RAM electronic lock, and that's UL rated obviously, but in this line you can absolutely have, as to pretty much any other safe that I'll ever talk about, because I'm a locksmith, I can make that happen, mechanical or keypad. So the question remains right now, stop, take a look. You've been staring at it, but the question is, what do you think about it? The look, just the look. Tell me about the look. Yes or no down in the comment section. You like it, whatever. While you're off in the comment section, there's probably like one of those little notification bells that you can click on, and like one of the little thumbs up things while you're there. You go ahead and like and subscribe and follow along if you want to learn more about gun safes, which is primarily what this locksmith seems to be talking about on the internet. I talk about anything to do with security, but this is where it ends up, right? Along with what you see in front of you, you see it but you don't, is going to be what the body is constructed out of, and in this case, it is constructed from a 12 gauge steel. Now, 12 gauge is considered good. It's not great. It's not grand. It's not a bank vault by any stretch of imagination. And what I'm saying is that I'm looking at that based off of what I see from the average home break-in, what people are trying to do, how they're trying to break into them and stuff of that nature. And we are using continuous welds in the body, so I'm a pretty big fan of that. So there's no tack weld, which we've seen with a lot of other import safes. So yes, this one is an import. Browning offers a whole line, so be careful and watch, and there you'll see the little flag on it if it's made here or not. But anyway, in this case it's not. But they do use their same standards with their overseas manufacturing plant. So anywho, 12 gauge here, but the door, let's talk about it, because you do see that it is in front of you, right? So the door is constructed of a 12 gauge steel, okay? But they do add more steel to the door. So they've got a 10 gauge interior partial plate there. Again, adding rigidity and strength to the door when somebody is attempting to pry or beat or whatever like that. They're making the door a little bit stronger that way. These are things that you're shopping for when you're safe shopping. So the lock, right? I said it was UL listed. You can have the mechanical, which is also UL listed. But what you don't see in front of you, which is right behind that lock, is going to be the fact that it does have hard plate. So if somebody is hardened steel, rather. So if somebody is attempting to drill and get to the lock body itself, you're going to find that pretty difficult to do with some hardened steel encased behind those 2 layers of steel that we started with talking about. And then let's say you're just going to be cool and you're going to knock the lock off and the safe's just going to fall open. magically. We've got an external reed locker, and so that again in itself is kind of a booby trap, if you will. It's set up kind of like a mouse trap, and it's a big piece of steel, and then it's spring loaded and it's hooked into a certain position so that if the lock and the door take enough abuse and everything, well, eventually that's gonna move that lock enough to throw off that piece of steel, and it shoots down. It shoots into the direction in which the handle turns, making it virtually impossible to get it open at that point without doing a whole lot more. So what you see in front of you is some pretty good security that way. We've talked a lot about the construction of the door and the protections that the doors offer, which is great, but let's talk more about that. So we've got 1-inch bolts, again, good, not great, not grand, not amazing, but I think once you stay to the end and you find out the price of this thing, you might find that for everything we're putting together, the price is pretty fair, okay? We've got 1-inch bolts. They do project from 3 sides of the door. There's none on the bottom. And with that, we do have their pry stop bolt, top and bottom. So those bolts have a little deflector in it, if you will. So if I try to stick my crowbar or pry bar here and try to pry the door, well, we already talked about the interlayer steel, the thickness of the door, and what makes it harder to do. But now with the pry stop bolt as well, which they have in most all of their safes, as I push and I cause force here, the bolt itself kicks the same way that I'm prying, putting pressure against the outside of the door. And at this point, I've now created a little circle of force that I'm doing. I'm getting nowhere. So that's the primary that I want you to be looking for when you're safe shopping. Kind of everything that I just covered. And if it's missing something off of said list, that's fine, but let's figure out what's missing and why, and then of course what's important to us. Burglar protection and our fire protection, what stands the most, right? So let's talk about fire, because I think it's a big one. Around here, we like to do a little fire graph, and the fire graph allows me to kind of show you their temperatures and everything and how the graph works and all that stuff right there. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll dim the lights, and then I'll put the graph on the screen, CGI again, right? So that'd be cool. Here we go. Lights, please. Okay, it's nothing to be alarmed about. That's perfectly normal. So this one happens to be rated for 80 minutes, 80, at 1,550 degrees. So on the graph, here we go. Let's say that we got a fire and it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and it's going to reach as hot as 1,550 degrees. Now that it's there, it's gonna continue to stay there for an hour. It's gonna go right on past an hour. It's gonna stay there for 80 minutes, 80, right? So what they're telling us is the fire got as hot as 1,550 degrees. And if it stayed exactly that hot, or something in that neighborhood, for 80 minutes, that the internal temperature will not breach 275 degrees on the inside of the safe. It's a really good fire rating is what I'm saying. So watch out for that when we're safe shopping. Lights. Making sure. I called an electrician. So 275 degrees on the inside. Why does that really matter? It's 80 minutes, whatever. So we normally recommend in our world, people that sell safes, people that work on safes, 60 minutes at 1,200 degrees is kind of that really good medium to kind of start with, to be perfectly fair. And the reason why is for what we see when we show up to a home or a business after a fire, we drill a safe open. What does it look like on the inside? What made it, what didn't, right? That's a really good number to base that off of, based off of what we've all seen. And call your local fire department. Back me up on that one, right? I couldn't tell you how many firefighters that I've asked that question without giving the answer or saying 60 minutes, and I've literally heard them say 60 minutes numerous times. 275 degrees on the inside. Paper is combustible over 400 degrees. So things like our stocks, be it wood, be it synthetics, our ammunition, our pictures, our flash drives, passports, all those things should be really safe at a temperature like that. So again, when you're safe shopping, that's one of the things we're looking for. It's important numbers. Now, before we get into the super fun stuff, along with fire, and then we'll move on, right here on the inside of the door jamb, not the door itself. Good shot. You like what you're seeing? So right here is a material called Palusol. Palusol, this material is going to expand 7 times its normal size during a fire. It'll actually start breaking down, roughly expanding between like 217, 257. There's a little bit of talk back and forth in there, but somewhere right about there, just over 200 degrees. Begin that expansion, and that's important because these aren't airtight. They're never sold that way or talked about that way. They're not. So we get rid of whatever gap between the door and the body when it's shut by that seal expanding, and that's keeping out soot and heat and fire and water from the fire department, things of that nature. Yes? New for 2025, the scope saver. Now, I didn't put a scope weapon on it. We'll talk about it. So that's what these big cavities here are. These are scope savers. And what that means is that if I take a rifle, shotgun, whatever, and I put it on the door and it's got a optic on it, well, that has a home to live. So I can actually do 2 right here and then 2 more right there. And of course, this is their DPX Door Storage System. It's really great, works well. 4 pistols on the door, that comes with it standard. This is what's called the quick access barrel rack. When we see these, there's a lot of conversation, and obviously everybody says to me when they walk in the door and they're looking at safes, and when they're online, they're like, oh yeah, if it says it holds 40, it holds 20. Okay, not arguing that at all, by the way. But what I am going to say is that it's finally made a lot more sense to me over the years of doing this. These are designed the same way they were designed a long time ago when gun safes got popular, which was the idea around shotguns and bolt action. Yes? So that said, see how tall this rack is sitting right now? Even here, I didn't move it. This is how they set it up at the factory, but see how tall this is sitting? Well, personally, with my black guns, I wouldn't mind that being down a little bit lower, right? And so I actually didn't put one of these on the door because, again, comfortably, I prefer this to be down a little bit. Now, they have combated that, to be super fair, meaning they did come up with something called a stock riser. Sounds right in my head. The stock riser sets right here on top of this existing platform for the buttstock right here. So it lifts it up, you know, a few inches or whatever. And then that way the barrel does reach, if you don't like that option. They've also created right here for this MOLLE system in the middle of the door. They've got these barrel loops. They hook right into it. So again, stock goes right there and there in the bottom where it goes. And then the barrel could reach and go right into here, which would work perfectly for said black guns, no problem. Even my European one. So that said, I've had a lot of customers do a couple different things, and I think it works well. And this is why you come to me, so I can give you these things to think about. One, you can move this down, yes. To do so though, you have to actually pop all the screws and take the door panel off the door first, because I need to get this screw right here. I think there's a nut on the back of it off the top of my head. So I need to be able to take that off, then take these two screws, those two screws, move the whole thing down, screw it all back on, put door panel back on. Very simple. Very easy to do. But then again, if you're a bunch of bolt action guys or a bunch of shotgun guys and gals, it doesn't matter. You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely great to go. You won't have to move anything and you can rock and roll. And with that, I have found that when people have a mass collection of ARs and, you know, big adjustable stocks like that and stuff, they oftentimes will actually remove the feet and they'll just use the interior, because that obviously has to go inside and takes up a little space. As you can see, these aren't sitting far out, but they probably wouldn't work great if I had too many on the door right now. They might bump. I'm not saying they will, they won't. Not this gun didn't touch anything moving in and out. I'm just giving you ideas, okay? So when you talk about the gun count thing and everything, you're not wrong, but I think it's still able to make it pretty functional to what you're doing. Might just take some fitting and hearing it from somebody else who's messed with it. There you go. On to the interior. This is what's called their CMS shelving. We'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the solid shelves, and that allows us to put all of our papers, ammo, things like that, solid things, extra optics, whatever we have laying around, papers, cash. And then we have the 3 quantity high capacity racks, or shelves, racks, so that we can put our weapons in and out. And it does work really well where they describe it and they show a lot of cool pictures on their website, where if I put, let's say along the back wall, if I had, again, shotguns or weapons without optics, those will go on the back wall first, standing pretty straight up and down. Then I'm able to place an optic weapon right in front of it. So I didn't do a great job of displaying that in this particular video. I've done it in other Brownings that we've done. But again, I try to think about nobody has the same collection as the next person. So what do you got, right? Let me know in the comment section. Will this work? I have this, right? So we've got those. Now again, I told you there was 4 pistols on the door, which is great. We've got 5 more pistols underneath that shelf right there. You can see those 2 guys hanging. And they both have, by the way, an optic on top of them. That is the pistol rack. So many words, I don't want to get them wrong. The pistol rack is really cool because that holds 5 pistols, and it's actually just a separate accessory, which could actually be bolted onto any shelf. So you could actually have 15 pistols going right across that top shelf if you wanted to. Pretty cool. Also this year, you might notice it is lit up inside because they've added the LEDs. And the LEDs, of course, have a switch, so when the door shuts, lights go away. You see that? That's pretty neat that they're just putting that in there because these are things that folks want, obviously. That's what we're shopping for. Hey, I want the cool stuff. Elevated floor, again, as always, I'm a big fan of an elevated floor. So if I'm pulling something in and out, I'm not gonna accidentally go down and bang that metal. It happens. We're all guilty. There are 4 holes in the floor, so they can be anchored into place when you find a home for it, yeah? That perfect spot for it. And then, so yeah, there's power coming out of the back. We talked about in the beginning of the video, talking about the depth. There is a power cord in the back. That's what powers the LED light. Other than that, if I miss something, you'll let me know in the comment section. You guys are pretty good about that. I appreciate that. Keep me on my toes. This dude comes in at 710 pounds. So it's got a little heft. And this price tag right here is gonna be $24.99 for 2025. Here we go. Ta-da. Pretty fair price, good fire rating, lots of room, pretty big box. Again, all the unique storage options, things of that nature, the light, cool interior, cool exterior. A lot of options there. So anyway, hit me up, like, subscribe, follow along. If you have any questions, again, my name is Robert with A1EDU, and I'll see you on the next video. I don't know why I did that, sorry.